But Troy, we're also talking about the Broncos defense. I mean, totally different than last year in terms of personnel, for sure. And now if you've got DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller playing at the top of their games, and against Tom Brady, I mean, it's obvious, but that's going to be key, is getting in Tom Brady's face in the backfield.
Yeah, and that starts up front. I mean, the pressure on Brady is not unlike Manning. You got to get him off his spot, get the pressure up the middle to make him basically step back in the pocket, keep him from stepping forward, and that'll allow Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware to get there. Now, again, you look at the Patriots, they've still had some issues protecting him from the outside, and that's where the Patriots will have to either slide their offensive line protection over or choose to double-team either Miller or Ware, and that's a problem. I mean, those guys can create havoc. But Brady, people forget because they see that Chiefs game, he's been as good as any quarterback in the league his last 4 games. I mean, the tales of his death were greatly exaggerated. He's playing as well now as he did during his MVP season. When you think back to 2007 when he played, these last 4 games, he's played really well, and they changed their offense, went back to the double tight end set that made them so good a few years ago.
Yeah, I know. Was Vaughn leads the league now? Was he got 9 sacks?
Yeah.
9 sacks.
Yeah.
And what do you do with Gronk? Troy, that's the big question. What do you do with Gronkowski?
Well, they had trouble. They tried to use T.J. Ward to cover Antonio Gates, and that didn't work the way they had hoped. So you can use Talib. You guys have mentioned this. Talib has got the size that he can play it in. He's taking Jimmy Graham out. He's guarded other tight ends. Can he guard Gronk? Gronk's a little different animal in terms of his physical size. He's wider and stronger. He's just a bigger guy than Gates. And I don't know that you want to use Talib. They won't isolate him and go man all game because they just don't do that.
Right.
But I would look to bracket him. You know, you're going to have help over the top with him. If you can contain Gronk and give him the 10-yard reception, you should be able to tackle him. Now, where he really hurts you is when he gets behind the defense as a tight end, which is such a unique weapon. So I would think it's going to be some combination of Talib and or Ward safety help over the top.
Yeah. Last question, Troy. We talk about regular season. This will bring us to the halfway point of the season. The Broncos will either be the number 1 seed in the AFC going into the second half, or they'll be tied with New England, and New England will own the tiebreaker. How big a game is this in the regular season at this point?
Well, it's huge because of the home field advantage issue. You don't want, if you're the Broncos, kind of have in the back of your mind that they're going to have to go back to New England and win in the playoffs. Peyton Manning's 2-8 in New England. I mean, so he's a great quarterback, one of the greatest of all time, but it's not easy to win in Foxborough. No doubt. If you can avoid having to go back there, that's a great thing for the Broncos. So it's a big game. It's as big a regular season game in the NFL has been so far this year.
Yeah, good
Outstanding.
Point. All right, Troy, thank you. Sorry we had to kind of interrupt you there in the mid-sentence there, but with Troy Renck, Denver Post, thanks so much for adding your insight this morning.